Yesterday, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of Brooklyn, New York, released a live stream in which she talked about the Capitol Hill attack. Now, I remember that day was very harrowing, and, I was watching. I was actually in the middle of a job, in the middle of tuning a piano, when I started getting news notifications on my phone of what was happening. But I remember that day, it was quite my adrenaline was up, my heart rate was up, watching it all happen live. And I remember Representative Ilhan Omar quite early on tweeted out that I'm safe, I'm in a secure location. But we did not hear from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for hours and hours and hours and hours, maybe until she was back on the floor of the House. And, a lot of people, there's all this attention focused on the MAGA mob chanting hang Mike Pence, which is egregious and terrible as well. But I was also very worried. I mean, I didn't really spend too much time worrying about the safety of Mike Pence, but I was very much worried about the safety of the squad. And of course, they stormed Nancy Pelosi's office, and they were chanting, "Where's Nancy?" or screaming, "Where's Nancy?" But I especially was concerned about the safety of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. The far right has focused on them for years with just vitriolic, you have racist hatred, you have misogynistic hatred, you have anti-Muslim bigotry in the case of, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. Those all can glom together in the hearts and minds of these individuals on the right, but conservative media has focused on them, and the threat of not just murder, like attacking them and killing them, was very real, but also what could or would these people have done before killing them, and I think you can guess what I'm alluding to: sexual violence. And yesterday, AOC talked about the moments when she feared for her life. She opened up that she is a sexual assault survivor, and how this situation put her in a very real fight or flight moment for her life, right? Let me play a clip really quick. This is her describing one of the scarier moments from the attack, where she was literally hiding in her bathroom, in her office. It turned out that the guy, screaming, "Where is she? Where is she?" was a Capitol Hill police officer, perhaps, trying to help her find safety. But as far as she knew at the time, she didn't know, so all of that fear is very real. It's very visceral. And, it's taken her weeks to be able to talk about it in this public of a way, and she did break down a bit. But let's just see this video really quick. Let me know if there's any audio issues, people.
Like, I'm here, and the bathroom door starts going like this. Like, the bathroom door's behind me, or rather in front of me, and I'm like this, and the door hinges right here. And I just hear, "Where is she? Where is she?" And this was the moment where I thought everything was over. And the weird thing about moments like these is that you lose all sense of time. In retrospect, maybe it was 4 seconds. Maybe it was 5 seconds. Maybe it was 10 seconds. Maybe it was 1 second. I don't know. It felt like my brain was able to have so many thoughts in that moment, between these screams and these yells of, "Where is she? Where is she?" And so I go down and I thought I was going to die.
Now, guys, it's important just to remember that, she later opens up that she's a survivor of sexual assault. So I'm sure, most people who go through that deal with a form of PTSD. But situations like that where you fear for your life, where your life truly is in danger, and you have to sit with that. And she's talking about time slowing down. We know so much about this now. That, I mean, it changes your own, chemical, your brain chemicals, or how, it's a goofy way to say it. It changes your consciousness. It alters your brain. It literally alters the chemical composition of your brain and how you react to trauma, how you react certain, when a lot of people in political discourse like to use the term triggered, like very, colloquially, but in psychology, there are literally little things will trigger a memory of a trauma that you've been through. And all of a sudden you're back in fight or flight mode. You have a cascade of endogenous neurotransmitters like cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate accelerates. So many things happen. That this stuff affects people. Okay. And so far we haven't heard a whole lot of Congress members open up in a personal way about what they felt. They've talked about the attack, and they've talked about it from the floor of the Senate or the House. But here we're hearing somebody really open up about their own, what they went through internally, their own feelings, right? I think this is important for people to hear. Here she is talking about being a survivor of sexual assault, and then likening it to how the right is now just trying to act like, well, this wasn't all a big deal. Let's just move on. You guys are being so divisive for wanting to impeach Donald Trump, right? And she makes the direct comparison to abusers, to whether it's abusive parents, abusive partners, just abusive people, how they tend to shift that feeling and that burden back onto you as the victim. So let's hear that.
But, sometimes you just can't tell the same story over and over. So anyways, the reason I say this and the reason I'm getting emotional in this moment is because these folks who tell us to move on, that it's not a big deal, that we should forget what's happened, or even telling us to apologize, these are the same tactics of abusers. And I'm a survivor of sexual assault. And I haven't told many people that in my life. But when we go through trauma compounds on each other. And so whether you had a negligent, but
there you go. So this is the thing. AOC has been the target of so much hatred and vitriol from the right wing since she began. I mean, since she began her candidacy, and then once she was in the Congress in 2018, it's, and she checks several boxes for the right wing for people that they hate. She's a woman, right? And are you going to really say all right wingers hate women? Of course not. I'm making a general statement, but if you look at the trends in conservative media, in conservative, what you see from a lot of right-wing targeting online, they target women. She's a woman of color. She's Puerto Rican descent. And she's an open democratic socialist. She is normalizing a conversation about socialism and socialized programs. And the project of the right wing in the United States has been to destroy every social program and call it socialist, call it communist. I mean, whether you want to go back to McCarthy, whether you want to talk about Ronald Reagan and ending, the era of big government, the attacks that Paul Ryan wanting to take down Social Security, right? That's been their project. But the right fights a two-front war, right? They fight a power war, a political war, but they also fight a culture war. And they know that they win a lot of hearts and minds with cultural grievances. And AOC falls under every category. She's quite far left, one of the farthest left people in the House of Representatives. She's a woman. She's a woman of color. And so I was really appreciative of today. I watched the Majority Report, and Emma Vigeland was quite, hit this point home. And so did Nomiki Konst, about how much this hatred towards her is sexualized in a way, and how she's facing this hatred that has really dark, sick energy behind it, beyond just misogyny, right? And something much darker and more sick, that we have to stare at in the face and be real about. Let's see. James Riley says it's also disheartening to see lefties joining in on attacking her and saying she's just looking for attention. Yeah, man. Thank you, James, for making that point. I mean, think of what it takes to really say that. A woman has gone through a trauma. She's opening up about her trauma, and you're going to say she's looking for attention? What's next? What are you going to say next? She was asking for it, right? I should bring up the Meghan McCain clip where, but it's a little unrelated. She was talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, the QAnon congresswoman, who called for the execution of Democrats, and say, well, the media makes us be like this. The Republicans want to do this. So there is that type of thing. But let's focus on the left really quick. Our Ricard is saying a lot of overlap with the Force the Vote crowd. Absolutely. That's my next point. So Glenn Greenwald was on Jimmy Dore's show. This was before her live stream, but she also talked about Glenn Greenwald was mad about interchanges she had with Ted Cruz over this whole GameStop stock situation. Stonks, right? Guys, Glenn Greenwald, having done good work in the past, which he has, does not preclude him from being, a bad faith actor, from having terrible takes, to having something maybe a little more pathological going on. If you hate the Democratic Party so much that literally someone like AOC can enter the party just 2 years ago, and I'm talking about Jimmy Dore too at this point as well. We're about to hear Glenn Greenwald on the Jimmy Dore show. Just a few years ago, before she was a representative, AOC was tending bar in Brooklyn. Okay, in Brooklyn, she was a working class, regular American, just like you or I, just struggling to get by. People, oh, she went to college. Oh, she did this. A lot of people struggle to go to college. Okay, and go to college, and then they can't find work. That's a lot of Americans. Okay. This need to try to tear her down. As soon as she enters the Democratic Party, she has crossed a line that they cannot stand. She's committed a cardinal sin. So it doesn't matter what she does, they're going to hate her for it. So listen to this. Ryan's making a funny joke, but let's just hear this. Glenn Greenwald makes, which, I have a lot to say about it.
This week has been like the most amazing week of having the left and the right unite against Wall Street. Almost everybody across the spectrum supports what those Redditors are doing and is thrilled to see these hedge fund leeches suffering. And it has it's created a major opportunity to regulate, to legislate, to reform. And Ted Cruz, whatever you think of him, reached out by saying, I agree with AOC about this. So that was an opportunity for right and left to join together to do something that supposedly her main reason for existing as a political figure, which is fighting income inequality. And instead she turns around and says, fuck you, I don't want to work with you. You guys got me murdered. You're a white supremacist. And suddenly the two camps divide again. And over here you have the red team and over here you have the blue team cheering like morons at a fucking high school football game again because she ruined that movement because all she wants to do is attack Republicans and fortify the Democratic Party. That is what the left has become, and they know it. And that's why all that's left for them to do is do things like talk about your personality and occasionally mine.
It is stunning to see AOC turn into Adam Schiff. It is stunning to me to see her just totally focus all her ire. And it started for me.
So there's Jimmy, let's work with the Boogaloo Boys Dore, calling AOC Adam Schiff. And this also goes to a lot of anger. Like, there were a lot of journo bros that took the whole Russia investigation personally. They saw, corporate media latch onto it because it made them money, and, it was a drip investigation. Who knows what other influences there are there. But I find it really fascinating that Glenn Greenwald, who has been this hailed on the left for so long, is now actively invested in attacking the left and excusing white supremacists like Ted Cruz. I don't think, calling the Republican Party has openly allied itself with white supremacists. It had an armed wing show up to the Capitol, openly white supremacists flying American Confederate flags, rather, waving flags with their dude's name on it and attacking the Capitol. And here's what he added just after this, Glenn Greenwald, that I cannot believe.
She made it through completely unscathed, not an even tiny little bruise on her body. Every other member of Congress in the Democratic caucus, including Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and others, are equally demonized. And they're fucking over it. They got over it. If you want to be a member of Congress, you can't constantly center your own, lived experiences. You're not there to center yourself in every drama. If you have an opportunity to strike a blow against Wall Street and the massive inequality and suffering that it causes, you don't have the right to refuse.
Wow. So he wants to, this is a form of, she's just trying to get attention for herself, right? I don't understand the need to tear down AOC by these people, by Glenn Greenwald, by Jimmy Dore. I don't know where it comes from. I'm not just going to blanket and say, well, it must be they're misogynists. It must be this. But the need to delegitimize a woman's experience of trauma after a hugely traumatic event for not just the people in Congress or the police officers who, lie in the hospital with injuries after, the police officer who died from being beaten, the two police officers who put bullets in their own heads, right? I'm sure they suffered some trauma, okay, from this whole situation. But the need to diminish and excuse a woman's trauma where her life was in danger that day. If you want to downplay that because she didn't have a bruise on her body, she didn't get a little scratch, I'm sorry, man, but you're not a part of any left that I'm trying to build. I don't hear the word solidarity being passed around in this corner of the left very much, in this lane, if you even want to call it left at this point. There has always been these contrarians in the United States where it doesn't matter who's in power, but they're going to tell you just how terrible and wrong they are, right? And we can all sit around and criticize Joe Biden. I do it quite a bit, and the hawkery in the Democratic Party, a lot of that stuff. But if you don't recognize already how Joe Biden's administration has definitely tacked to the left, and much farther than left than most people expected, okay? Keystone Pipeline, $15 minimum wage. All of these decisions can be followed up with but. Yes, definitely, of course. There's always we can criticize. But if you don't recognize what has happened in the party as a result of AOC, of Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and the squad, and now Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, how these people are really bear responsibility in pulling this party to the left. The $2,000 checks, yeah, they're $1,400 checks. I get it, right? This is politics. This isn't about he's angry about people bringing, or AOC bringing her personal feelings into this. But here he is, cussing her out and saying how upset he is and saying, oh, people just want to talk about your and my personality. It's not about your personality, Glenn Greenwald. It's not about Jimmy Dore's personality. It's about intellectual triage. That's what it's about. What do you decide is important to talk about, is important to worry about? In journalism, we call it editorial direction. What's the editorial direction of Jimmy Dore's show, of Glenn Greenwald? Glenn Greenwald threw a temper tantrum that he was getting edited to stay factual because he wanted to talk about the Hunter Biden laptop just before the election. That's why he left The Intercept. It's not about personality. That's about like integrity and editorial responsibility. This guy wants to he wants to minimize the real trauma and experience. Do you know what like AOC talking about that means to the millions of women in the United States who've been through sexual assault? I don't know. I'm just another journo bro here on YouTube myself, just talking into a microphone. There's nothing special about it at all, okay? But I'm going to listen to women when they talk about what this stuff means to them. That's what solidarity means to me. You know who AOC sheltered with for 6 hours with? Another beloved, more progressive Democrat, and that's Katie Porter. Listen to what Katie Porter has to say about what AOC said to her. AOC's running around her office once she sheltered with her, looking for places to hide, because she was totally legitimate to fear for her life after the way that the right has targeted her and the death threat she faces. Listen to this.
And I was like, can I help you? Like, what are you looking for? And she said, I'm looking for where I'm going to hide. And the thing that will always stay with me, the two memories that really, especially as a mom, I think were just really powerful for me, was when she said, I was saying, well, don't worry, I'm a mom, I'm calm, I've got everything here we need. We could live for like a month in this office. And she said, I just hope I get to be a mom. I hope I don't die today. And the second thing is she was wearing heels. And I remember her saying to me, I was wearing flats. And I remember her saying to me, I knew I shouldn't have worn heels. How am I going to run? And we went and we found her a pair of sneakers to wear from one of my staffers. So,
can you imagine? Can you imagine feeling that way? I can't. I assume if my life was threatened, I would think of my wife and think of the family we could have had. But what man has ever had, a guy like me has ever had to worry about, oh, Jesus, I wore heels today and there's a mob of rabid, mostly men who want to kill me, who want to kill people who look like me. Nope. I've been threatened as a journalist. That kind of stuff escalated under Trump. My job became a little more dangerous, but I'm a white guy, people. I didn't have to worry about that. I just can't. I have no patience anymore for Glenn Greenwald. Jimmy Dore, I may talk about him in the future to criticize him, but I'm really just gonna guys, we need to stop giving these people oxygen. They are not helpful to the left. There's no solidarity with them. They just want to criticize the left because they hate the Democratic Party. They might even just hate the two-party system. But for whatever reason, they hate the Democratic Party. They claim to be the real left, and they hate the only party that's worth saving. The other one has gone into white supremacy, whipped up a white supremacist mob that very well could have killed the brightest luminaries we have for a progressive left movement. They're not allies. They are absolutely not allies. Sorry, I haven't read any comments in a bit. And let me get to that. But last, we'll look at Michael Tracy, who is a colossal POS. Michael Tracy tweeted, "This is a masterclass in emotional manipulation, a genuine political rhetorical skill. Gotta hand it to her." Michael Tracy is garbage. He's absolute garbage. You know, he's one of these journo bros who, you know, acted like, you know, who would go, you know, antagonize leftists in Portland, like, you know, Antifa or whoever else, BLM, and then go, look, they're being mean to me, right? And their left is the real problem. People like Andy Ngo. Unsurprisingly, Glenn Greenwald retweets him all the time. He's insufferable. And he also says, good to know any loopy delusion expounded by a politician must now be respected and, quote, believed under the aegis of trauma. So what does this sound like, right? This sounds like, you know, men who tell women, don't say anything. Nobody will believe you. You're just trying to shut women up. I stand firmly against that. This is the Surfs. If you guys don't know the Surfs, check them out. Lance on Twitch and YouTube. They're great. Just a reminder that Michael Tracy tried to sell receiving a hand wave as blunt force trauma. Yeah, he tried to say Maxine Waters attacked him because she waved her hand in his face and said, I don't have any time for you anti-Obama people. Like, that was, and it was hilarious. And he's even smiling as she walks away, and he tried to claim that she attacked him in some way. So that's how I feel about this whole situation. These guys are not allies. They're not allies to the left. They're not allies to women. If you're gonna completely, if you're not just gonna try to listen and actually sit with what she's saying and what she went through, and not recognize the real peril that people like AOC and Ilhan Omar were facing that day. Okay, I mean, you've it just clarifies where you stand. It clarifies what kind of person you are and what you think is important. So